I think if you're going to execute well, you have to love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I loved building this. Initially for myself, I wasn't planning on building a SaaS company. I was just like, I want something that allowed me to become, I was trying to become a $100 million a year wholesaler, the first one in the country. I'm like, to do that, I need to be able to be in multiple markets. And I need to have Dispo locked down because that's where all the money's made.
Yeah.
It's all on Dispo.
Yeah.
Right? You can sign stuff up all day long. There's 1,000 products out there. There's all the sales training. There's all this stuff on the acquisition side, but there's nothing on Dispo. So I'm like, I need to solve that for myself. And as we were building stuff out, like I think what really drives me is just intellectual curiosity.
Yeah.
I love to just like see what happens. Like we're constantly running experiments on Investor. We're constantly running A/B tests. If you log into InvestLift and you log into InvestorLift, there's gonna be slight variations on it. So I love just like putting stuff out, like coming up with a hypothesis.
Yeah.
Thinking of like how could we make things better, thinking about how can we validate that hypothesis, and then boom, we just found a better way of doing things. And then the cool thing about InvestorLift is when we find a better way of doing things, it does, like the scale of it is enormous now.
Yeah.
Right? Like just 3 weeks ago, we broke $1 billion in assignment fees earned through the system.
That's insane. Fam, what's up? Welcome back to the REI Big Shots podcast. I have two very, very special people with me. Of course, my co-host being Vic Heredia here, one of the hot shots here in the Valley.
Thank you, Rafael. Thank you.
A ton of deals, a lot of knowledge when it comes to the real estate wholesaling space. Is doing big things, right? And if you have taken a breath in the wholesaling space, you probably know who the guy sitting to my left is, right? He's pretty much the creator of the equivalent to Facebook in the wholesale industry. So
that's true. That's very true.
It is. Very special, very humble to have Robert Wensley with us today on the podcast, which is, I mean, I can't wait to pick your brain, man. Like, you've done some incredible things. You've really changed the whole layout of the industry over the last 3-4 years. And I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, but the impact that you've had, again, over the last 3-4 years it's had, so many ripple effects. So from creating, the Investor Lift platform where people really come in and rely on that platform to support their businesses, to actually going all over the place and empowering people to tap into this vehicle, which is, in my opinion, one of the best vehicles, right, to create wealth. So
Absolutely.
Welcome to the podcast, man. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome, bro. We're happy to have you for sure.
Awesome. Let's break it open, dude. I mean, from your words, right? Let's kind of kick it off with your background, how you got started, for the people out there who haven't had an opportunity to meet you or kind of know where what your background is.
Yeah. So I growing up, I didn't really think about real estate too much.
Yeah.
I was planning on going into finance. The reason being is like I got invited over to a birthday party one time, and I go over there and like this guy, his dad has like the most insane house. Like this thing's like 10,000, 12,000 square feet. It's got like 6 garages. And the garages are full of exotics.
Really?
Like every car has an exotic car. And I walk in, he's wearing like, solid gold Rolex Yachtmaster 2. And I'm like, sir, do you mind me asking you, how the hell do you afford all this stuff? He's like, well, I'm an investment banker. Okay, how do I become an investment banker? And he's like, well, get really good at grades in school, get into the best university you can, preferably Harvard, study economics and finance, and then go work on Wall Street. I'm like, all right, perfect. I got my roadmap to having a garage full of Lambos and Ferraris and
3 steps
and Rolex watches.
I'm ready.
Let's go. So I went after it. Like when I'm going after a goal, there is no failure. It's just like, what do I need to do to go achieve it?
Yeah.
So did the whole thing, got good grades, got into Harvard, signed up for economics and finance. I'm like, yeah, let's go. But then I'm doing these internships. I'm not really liking it that much. And then I graduate, and right before graduating, I do an interview at Goldman Sachs, #1 investment bank in the world. And I'm interviewing with a Harvard alumni who had worked at the bank pretty much his entire career. And he said, Robert, I'm going to offer you a job. This interview was really long. It was only supposed to be like 20 minutes. It ended up going for like 2-3 hours. He's like, I'm going to offer you a job. And if you come and work here, you're going to make 150 grand a year right out of school. So the selfish part of me wants you to take that job because I know you're going to be one of my top performers. In fact, we spend millions of dollars every year trying to recruit guys like you out of top colleges with exactly your background. So, but Robert, please don't take the job. Please don't take it.
That was nice of him.
Wow.
Really nice. And I'm like, I'm so mind fucked.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean, please don't take it? Like, I thought we were on a roll. Like, I've been working since I was like 15 years old to get here, and now I got it.
Yeah.
And now the guy that's already done it is telling me don't do it. I said, why? He said, Robert, you're an entrepreneur. Like, everything you've told me, your whole life story, you're a goddamn entrepreneur. He's like, let me tell you a story. When I graduated from school, 2/3 of the class goes into consulting and goes into finance. And when we come back and we went to the 5-year anniversary, we were on top of the world. We're buying our first Aston Martins. We got the luxury $10,000 a month condo. We're living it up. We think we're the kings. And then there's another group. And that other group, they go and they try to start their own business. And at the 5-year anniversary, they're still living with mom and dad. They have some duct tape together idea for something that they want to do. They're not making any money. They're struggling, and we feel like, hey, we made the right choice here.
Yeah.
Good thing I'm not one of these idiots to start their own company. So, but then you fast forward to the 10-year anniversary. And the 10-year anniversary, all of a sudden, these guys are doing a little bit better than us. So then you go to the 15 and the 20-year anniversary, and we're all working for them, managing their money.
Yeah. Wow.
So, Robert, I'm going to offer you the job, but please don't take it. What I want you to do, save my cell phone number in your phone, go out, start a company, and when you're ready to sell it, call me up, and I'll manage your money.
Wow, that's powerful.
Wow, man. He saw it.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Now, here's the crazy thing. 18 months ago, I got my first, what I would consider like a legitimate like offer on Investor Lift that I would consider $150 million.
Wow.
And I said no, because I think it's worth a lot more. And when you're growing 16% a month, you don't sell. You keep your foot on the gas because you're doubling.
That's a lot of growth.
You're doubling every year, you know? So I remember that conversation, but I was just like, oh, shit, like, okay, it's time for me to like talk to some adults. So I called this guy up and I told him, I'm like, hey, remember I was in your office like, 5-6 years ago. And I didn't even expect him to remember me. He's like, Robert, of course I remember you. Like, that was one of the coolest interviews I've ever done.
That's nuts. You wouldn't think.
Wow.
And I'm so glad you took my advice. And now he's my personal banker.
Really?
That's insane, man.
Wow, that is nuts.
Yeah.
So
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
A very cool story.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, first off, I want to kind of take it back to that beginning part where you walked into this dude's house and he's wearing all this, gold and the flashy cars, and I mean, you're seeing this certain lifestyle, and you got a blueprint, a 3-step blueprint, good grades, good school, and then you went after it, right? But you held on to that idea and that dream for you saw that when you were 15.
Yeah.
Dude, like, okay, one of the things, I guess the argument of whether or not we were born entrepreneurs or we're built into entrepreneurs. I mean, I think it's a mix, of those. You got to have the tenacity too, but you also have to have the acuity to recognize opportunity and more importantly, not deviate, right? Like, bite onto it until it clicks, until you find that path or that opening, right? Which, I mean, for you, 15 years old, when did you hit Harvard?
I guess I was probably like 18, 19.
Yeah.
So like by the time I'm in the room with this guy, I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'd be like 21 or so. And there's this thing that I always say it's called climbing the wrong ladder.
Yeah.
So if you're going to achieve anything in life, what you got to do is say no to 99% and pick the 1% that you want to go all in on. Like, my whole thing is 11 out of 10. You got to go 11 out of 10 on everything you want to do and just have extreme focus and say no to 99. Get rid of all the noise, because every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So clear out 99%, focus obsessively on 1%, go all in on it. But sometimes what's going to happen is you're going to find out you're climbing the wrong ladder. You're going to get some new information. That's what happened to me. I got smacked in the face. Shit, I'm climbing the wrong ladder.
Yeah.
But then when you get that new information, you got to be prepared to pivot.
Yeah.
You know, don't get sucked into the sunk cost fallacy that like, hey, I'm so far into this that I got to keep on going because of how much work I went into it.
Yeah.
If you get new information that there's a better ladder to climb, get off the ladder and go climb the other ladder.
Yeah. I got a question though, because so basically you hit two big targets. Like you wanted to go to Harvard and get to the room with Goldman Sachs, right? And then you build Investor Lift. What drives that? I got to ask, like, what do you think drives that? There's something inside of you, right? That the impetus. What was it? I'm curious.
So what's interesting is like a lot of people, I think there's a couple misconceptions about Investor Lift. I love when these podcasts get posted. I love like reading the comment section and like all the trolls and haters and everything. And like people are always like, you know, like one of the big misconceptions are like, oh, Investor Lift, oh, Robert just got lucky.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there's zero fucking luck.
Yeah.
It's just brute force, like 60 hours a day going after it. We track all the other deal platforms that are going live. Like I had an entire Excel spread, a Google Doc, where like every time, like as soon as someone launches an off-market deal platform, they're going to be reaching out to my customers, trying to steal my customers or get them as advisors or whatever. Because that's just the way that's just the way it works. If you're on the top, everyone tries to copy you. And then usually within 24 hours of them going live, someone's like, hey, Robert, just want to give you a heads up. Another guy's launching another deal platform. So I used to track them all. Now I don't even bother tracking them anymore because most of them don't last more than 6 months. So it wasn't like, and here's the thing, I wasn't the first one, right? Like My House Deals launched in like 2008. Like people have been launching these off-market deal platforms, one every month or two for decades, for absolute decades. But what it really comes down to is execution. And I think if you're going to execute well, you have to love what you're doing. Okay, so I loved building this. Initially for myself, I wasn't planning on building a SaaS company. I was just like, I want something that allowed me to become, I was trying to become a $100 million a year wholesaler, the first one in the country. I'm like, to do that, I need to be able to be in multiple markets. I need to have Dispo locked down because that's where all the money is made. It's all on Dispo. Right? You can sign stuff up all day long. There's 1,000 products out there. There's all the sales training. There's all this stuff on the acquisition side, but there's nothing on Dispo. So I'm like, I need to solve that for myself. And as we were building stuff out, like I think what really drives me is just intellectual curiosity. I love to just like see what happens. Like we're constantly running experiments on Investor. We're constantly running A/B tests. If you log into Investor Lift and you log into Investor Lift, there's gonna be slight variations on it. So I love just like putting stuff out, like coming up with a hypothesis, thinking of like how could we make things better, thinking about how can we validate that hypothesis. And then, boom, we just found a better way of doing things. And then the cool thing about Investor Lift is when we find a better way of doing things, it does, like the scale of it is enormous now. Right? Like just 3 weeks ago, we broke $1 billion in assignment fees earned through the system.
That's insane. I was going to mention that during the opening. Right.
Yeah, that's a ton.
Billion.
And that's what you could track. I know it's more, it's more than that.
It's way more than that because that's
that
just offers submitted and accepted within the system. But a lot of guys like you're like, you just do it over the phone.
I use Investor Lift to Dispo, but when I lock it up, it's offline.
So that's I just know what we see.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So that's what's really fun is like we can run a test and then all of a sudden we're like, oh shit, we just made people $10 million more this month or so $20 million more this month.
Guys, let's help Robert help us. Just type in the info if you're going through the deal. That way they can collect the data on the back end.
Log your offers. I'm trying to train AI. I'm trying to train AI, but I need the offer data. Log your offers. Go back, log your old offers.
But one thing that because I remember when you started, what I recognize about you is you were really good at sales, and you're super good at building relationships. I think that's a critical part of it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And of course the vision. Like you had the vision. Like not a lot of people can put in all those hours to build a platform with no return and then get it to this level. That's impressive.
I still roll it all back in, you know, like like in I just moved here from Puerto Rico, but now I have a baller place here. Vic, you were over at my place.
It's nice.
It's pretty nice.
It's pretty nice.
I got probably like, I think, I don't know, I haven't seen all the penthouses in Scottsdale, but I'm pretty sure I got one of the nicest penthouses.
Agreed.
In all of Scottsdale. And I could have afforded that 2 or 3 years ago, but I didn't. Like in Puerto Rico, I had a 600-foot studio. Like, I'm like, I was living cheap, right? Because I'm trying to roll it all back in. Because in tech, it's winner take all, and I know there's always people like trying to knock us off our pedestal, always trying to copy us. And the way I look at it is like, hey, if I bring $1 million in and I put $1 million back in, that's $1 million more space between me and the next competitor.
Yeah, that's true.
That's an interesting way of seeing it, man. I think the hunger doesn't die easy, right? When you have that tenacity, when you're kind of built that way, which it sounds like you get obsessive about an idea and then just plow through anything that gets in front of you.
Yeah.
You were talking about Puerto Rico. I mean, I think that's a very interesting story. One of the power of proximity, which I want to touch on that, and then also the ability, not just financial ability, but the mental fortitude and the mindset that it takes to really just kind of pick up and leave. Like you're calling the shots on something that you think is gonna pay off, and then you go going all in. I mean, that's important to do as entrepreneurs. And a lot of times we're running on hunches, right?
Yeah.
Some other times we see the info in front of us.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, I think I'm set in this place. You were living in Puerto Rico, and I want you to break that kind of that experience down. But you were living in Puerto Rico, and you saw opportunity elsewhere, and just from one day to the next, like. Your entire team got moved.
Yeah, so like literally. So I'll tell you how it went down. I got that offer on Investor Lift, and I'm like, okay, well, if or when I sell the company, I would incur capital gains tax, and that's 22%. I think is what it's at right now. So I'm like, shit, like on $100 million, that's $22 million in tax. I could just move down to Puerto Rico and avoid tens of millions of dollars in tax. I'm like, I'll live in Afghanistan if I'm making $10 million a year. I don't care. So moved down, and I'm like, let's try it out for 1 year, see how it is. And it was great. Like, we had our office right on the beach. We were scuba diving, like right in front of our office, like every morning. Beautiful scuba diving reef there with a turtle sanctuary. Like, it was awesome. We're living life. And I was able to get all my sales guys down there because, like, if you're 20-something, like living on the beach of Puerto Rico, that's
you're
the
there.
dream. Like, you're like, sign me up, brother.
Dream, yeah.
But the problem, right. The problem is, like, now I'm trying to scale up and I need senior talent, and I need a chief marketing officer. I need a chief sales officer. By the way, if you guys know anyone, send me an email. Would love to anyone that's really talented at marketing. Or sales leadership, we're looking to hire. Anyways, like those guys, their kids are in school. They got mortgages. They got like they're not.
It's hard for them. They can't do it.
They can't do it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get senior level talent. Number one, but number two, I think that what makes Investor Lift really special and why it works so well is it's all designed around collaboration. Collaboration is the most powerful force in business.
Yeah.
Word, 100%.
100%. Like what we're doing right now, collaboration. There's not that many wholesalers. Like Jerry Norton is pretty much the only guy on the island other than me. There's a couple other guys. Actually, there's a couple Investor Lift guys in my building, but there's like three of us. It's like I got to do a lot of great content while I was out there with Jerry. Build that relationship. Now he's one of my best friends in the business. And if you guys haven't seen our stuff on Jerry's channel, check out the 0 to Million playlist on Jerry Norton's channel. It's great playlist. We got a couple in there actually. But October, we brought in about $1 million in new business. And then November, I came out here to shoot a couple podcasts and stuff. And I came out here, and then Zachary Keeps, you guys know as well.
Yeah.
He's like, bro, why don't you stay? I was talking to him. I'm like, I'm thinking about maybe living here 6 months and doing 6 months on the island, just kind of feel it out. And he's like, bro, just like come kick it at my place. I got infinite bedrooms. Just got a sick place in looking down
his
Paradise.
place is nice.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, just kick it up here for a month. So I kick it up at Zach's place for a month, and I don't go into any events. I'm not doing any sales. I'm like going to like people's barbecues and like hanging out, grabbing a
Just hanging
cigar,
out,
just
yeah.
like
we went to a few meetups or hangouts.
Yeah, but I'm not like pushing Investor Lift or anything. I'm just hanging out with my buddies, for a month, smoking some cigars, kicking it, and then we smoke a cigar and like Carlos Reyes would be like, hey, you know what? I just got 3 new students last month that would be perfect for Investor Lift. Let me text you an intro. Okay, sure. So the amount of leads that came in that month just from being top of mind it's just exploded. That month in November, we brought in $1.7 million of new business, our biggest month ever.
And you didn't even work that hard, right?
I was just kicking it, like hanging out with my buddies.
I think it's kind of like the life of the entrepreneur, right? You're not working, but you never stop working. So it's always when you're in alignment, man, with the stuff that you enjoy, climbing the right ladder, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that,
It's actually the most important work if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like collaboration is the most important work. So I was just collaborating for a month. Now, when I saw those numbers, I came back to my sales office and I walked in. I'm like, guys, team meeting. They're like, all right, go to the conference room. I'm like, how many of you guys want to make more money? And everyone's like, yeah, let's make more money. I'm like, all right, pack up your shit. We're moving to Scottsdale. And they're like, yeah, okay, I've never been to Scottsdale. When are we going? I'm like, now. John, go find out logistics for moving. My brother literally the next day called up this company and they brought in like basically a semi truck. We packed up everyone's apartments to a semi truck, put that on a ship, and literally the next week we were out.
Crazy.
That is nuts. So you move fast.
We got all our leases and stuff in like 48 hours. We're subleased and like we move fast. That's a real key thing in entrepreneurship is like the speed between idea and value creation. If you have a good idea, ask yourself, what is the fastest and most efficient way that I can test this?
Yeah.
And validate it. And and how am I going to validate it? Like you always, in our business, we track all the numbers. Like I know down to the hour how much each salesperson sells. So if they're like, hey, I'm going to take 2 days off, I know exactly how that's going to impact my numbers. I'm like, okay, well, if he takes 2 days off, he sells like $2,600 per hour. Like I know exactly how that's going to hit my numbers before it even hits. Everything is all data. Come up with a hypothesis, collect data, see what the data shows, and just keep on following the data.
And move fast.
Come back and revise. Well, I mean, I think the moving fast portion is one of the most important things to do, right? But like ideas are a dime a dozen, dude. We can have the best ideas. We can have, cool, like, I don't know, you're going to cure cancer or, fix world hunger. But if you don't deploy on it, if you don't take that step forward, none of it matters, right?
Yeah, like Picasso said, action is the foundation of all success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too because like you mentioned it, you got to move fast. There's a quote and he's controversial, but I love the quote. It's true. Andrew Tate. Yeah. He's like, why does a plane fly? Speed.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's like it's common sense. It's all speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give us a, in your opinion, again, you've seen exponential growth over when did it launch? When was the official launch date of Investor Lift?
Yeah. So at first I moved from DC out to LA. I didn't have any buyers there. So I had to build a buyers list. So first I went to my buddy, Chris Richter at Audantic, because he was doing predictive modeling for sellers. And I'm like, hey, I know you have the data already. Instead of doing predictive modeling on sellers, can you just run some clustering on who's actually buying these things and send me a CSV export and I'm going to see if I can use that to build my buyers list here. And so he did that for me. And it worked out really well. I built my buyers list and started scaling up business in LA. And then I was like, okay, but it's such a pain in the ass to like skip trace all these buyers and like find their buy boxes and then I'm like having to put all my CRM. And it's just like, so I came up with the idea for Investor Lift and I pitched Chris on trying to create it. I'm like, dude, you need an application layer. And I do respect his decision on this because I always say it's all about focus on what you're the best in the world at. He's
what you're
like,
good at, yeah.
Dude, I'm not the best in the world on building software. I'm the best in the world at data. I'm just going to stick in my lane and do data.
Pick his ladder.
I was like, oh shit. Okay, I guess I gotta have to build my own thing. So I started building it for myself, but then like some of these data sets are millions of dollars a year. So I was like, shit, I can't afford that. Like that's gonna pull too much cash out of my operation. Let me go get some of my buddies, because a lot of my buddies were calling me all the time, just be like, hey, can you do some consulting? Can you do some consulting? I always say no, because again, I'm trying to stay focused. I'm like, sorry, man, I'm doing my own thing. So I just called up a few of my buddies that had been like calling me every few months, asking for advice, asking for me to do some consulting with them. And I was like, okay, here's the deal. I can't consult for you, but I'm building some killer stuff for my company. You guys each chip in $10,000 a month, and everything I build for my company, I'll give you as well. And then so the original group, it was not SaaS, it was not software as a service. In fact, we used to actually install it on their fucking servers. It was not SaaS at all. And everyone had their own copy of the code base, and we'd have like run updates every couple of months. Like,
go back to the computer and they do it in the computer.
Yeah, it was like really old school, and there was just 12 guys, and that was the first couple of years. But then what happened is like those first guys became very successful. They started becoming coaches, and they came to me. They're like, "Hey, Robert, like I'm doing really good numbers, and a big part of it is Investor Lift. Now I got these students. I'm trying to train them. But the problem is like there's nothing out there on the market for Dispo except for Investor Lift, but you're not selling it. Please open it up." And I was like, no, man, like this is our secret sauce. I'm not opening this up. Like this is our competitive advantage. We don't want to give this out to everyone. If everyone had it, it's not going to be useful. And then they kept on working on me. And then finally I was like, okay, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll do a pre-sale webinar and let's just see what happens. So I jumped on a webinar with Dan Schwartz. You guys know Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was 150 people on the webinar. We pre-sold for a version of Investor that didn't even exist. 144,000 the first hour, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
There's something here.
144,000 sales on 150 webinar applicants. I'm like, "Damn, I knew people need it, but I didn't know they needed it that bad."
Exactly.
So then, what I did is I took the recording of that and I just shared it on some wholesaling Facebook groups. Boom, $1.8 million in pre-sales in the first 3 days.
Wow.
Jeez, that's nuts.
And
wow.
Yeah, it was just nuts. It was the most
That's
viral
insane.
product. And then I just shut it off because it was just me and my co-founder. Like there was no company. There was no customer support. There was nothing. And I'm like, shit, we got $1.8 million in pre-orders. We better be able to fulfill this.
Yeah.
And so we just got to work.
So you literally pre-sold it.
We pre-sold it. Yeah. That was 3 years ago. So it's been available to the public for 3 years now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, the impact, the ripple effects, over a span of 3 years. This is what I love about real estate, man. There's so many different ways to play, right, in the real estate space. It's not just transactional. People usually think like, okay, I'm gonna get a house, I'm gonna buy a house, I'm gonna, fix it and then sell it again. But there's so many different ways to play in the space of real estate, in a manner that it catches, right, your attention, your passion, your dedication, and then you're still joyful in it, and you can stay committed. Like the way that you're working the business makes a lot of sense based on the stuff that you enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
So, in your opinion, what do you think was the thing that kind of made it spark?
Well, I think if you look at the best products in the world, the worst thing to do when you're starting a business is like come up with something that you're hoping solves a problem that oftentimes doesn't actually exist.
Doesn't exist, yeah.
Like if you guys ever watch Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
There's so many times where like these guys come on, it's just like they've mortgaged their house on the dumbest idea, and they're like, "Well, my mom says that she would buy it, and my aunt and my best friend." I'm like,
they're not solving the problem.
dude, they're just trying to support you because of your family. Okay,
Yeah.
The only way to really test your idea is a stranger swipe their credit card.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I think the best businesses are built when you're trying to solve something for yourself. You do that, and then you just find more people like you. And so I think that's why it kind of took off was in the first 2 years, I was just on the phone like every week with those other 11 guys being like, hey, how can you make it better? How can we make it better? How can we make it better? And we were just trying to build the dream system for ourselves. And it got to the point where we loved it so much. We're like, I remember Nick Perry was one of the first 11 guys. And I went to his office and I asked one of his sales guys, one of his old Dispo guys, I think his name was Jacob. I said, okay, what would you do if we just pulled Investor Lift out of your business and you no longer had access to it? He's like, bro, I would rather cut off my left arm than do this job without Investor Lift.
That's
and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We got product market fit.
Yeah. Well, to
Product
be honest,
and demand.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, when you gave me the demo, I was like, because it was Cartel, right? And I was like, wow, that was the biggest investment I've ever made in my business.
By the way, I appreciate you gambling because you came on in that first month.
Yeah. I think I heard about Nick Perry, and then Corey Gary says you got to check this out.
Yeah.
And then
actually, I think you were on even before we opened it up, possibly.
I think
or
so,
right after,
but I didn't know that
because you were at the first Cartel Summit, which was
correct
to celebrate us actually getting across the finish line,
correct,
and delivering all those pre-orders.
Yeah, and it was the most expensive investment I made, but it was worth it. Like you got your ROI and then some. But here's the thing, even my wife was like, "Get it, it's gonna work."
Yeah,
like she can see it, right?
Yeah.
So it made a huge difference, and it's really changed the industry.
Well, it made her life easy too because she's Dispoing, right?
Yeah, she helps in Dispo. Yeah, so it does help. Yeah,
I am really excited. I do this thing. Elon Musk does this a lot too, but I felt like I fall in the trap too, where I announce stuff before it like is ready. I'm like, oh yeah, it's coming soon. Like I was on Steve Tramp's podcast in December, and I'm like, the AI is coming out next month. And then like we started running tests on it. And we're like, oh shit, we don't have enough data for the models of spitting out weird stuff. And then like today, I fired the data science team that was working on it because like they're not figuring it out. Now I'm just going to build it myself. I'm just like, I got off the call. I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to build it myself. So I have this problem where I announce stuff before, so I'm not going to announce anything. Actually, I will tell you one thing because this one's definitely coming out.
You don't have to announce it, but you can talk about it.
But there's a couple
you can talk about it right now.
Big things coming out. Like I'm so amped up. Like this year, the stuff that we push out is going to change the entire future of real estate forever. Okay, so something that is coming out next month, which is not going to change the whole real estate industry forever, but will make things a lot easier, is we finally have a mobile app for buyers coming. Super excited for that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Wow. We've been trying to get pushed through the App Store for a while, and they just keep on nitpicking stuff. Like building is one thing, getting it actually on the App Store and approved by Apple, like that's a whole process. You're going back and forth. So if all goes well with Apple, we'll have that launched on the App Store next month, which I'm super excited about. But a big thing this year. So we've been struggling with the amount of fake buyers that are bombarding our system. Okay. And I'll tell you why this happened. So last year was a rough year for wholesalers. It was the worst year ever for wholesalers.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The year prior to that, the best year ever, right? All the hedge funds were buying everything.
Yeah.
Everyone with a heartbeat could make a killing wholesaling houses.
Yeah.
And when it's so easy, it doesn't force you to build your fundamental skills, like talking
systems
to people
and
systems and processes.
Yeah.
You can kind of like get away with the cell phone and a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So we estimate that 60% of wholesalers went out of business in Q4 2022 and Q1 2023. And I think that's actually healthy because it knocked out all the weak companies. Now the strong companies are doing much better. But a lot of the weak guys are still trying to cling on. They don't have money for marketing. They're still trying to cling on or get back in.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're coming on and they're like posing as buyers, like, oh yeah, I'm then buyer, like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And making offers that aren't really offers. So we've pushed out some stuff that helps mitigate that. But they're basically just trying to JV. And we thought about it for a while and we came up with a breakthrough where this year, JVing in wholesaling is going to go extinct. It won't be a thing anymore.
Interesting.
Actually figured out a way.
How's that? Can you talk about it or?
I can't say too much more about it. But this time next year, JV won't exist.
Yeah.
What can you say about it?
You won't need to JV.
Oh, okay.
Because I do have the one thing about investor life, even on that, in that respect, I do get people that tell me, and I'll ask them like, are you a buyer or are you a wholesaler? Yeah. Because if you do, that's fine. If you have buyers, I'm okay. I'll work with you.
Just be honest about it.
Just be honest about it. You know, so, but when you got guys that are fake, that's the issue. But as long as they're honest, hey, just let me know. Right?
We get a lot of JV requests, so people sending us properties to Dispo.
Yeah.
And I mean, we used to do the regular thing, right? You know, take them down via email, via phone call, or whatever. Then I put together a form, and on that form, I have some dequalifiers that go over to a code, and they just kind of push it out, and then they automatically just kind of screen the legit JV deals versus the ones that are just kick a tire. So there's dequalifiers there, which is needed, but it is. I mean, that is an issue. If you're in the industry, you're doing volume, you're doing, I don't know, call it maybe even more than 5 deals on a regular basis. basis, like you're gonna see that kind of stuff happen all the time.
Yeah.
Or where you put out stuff and then people are daisy chaining without consent and that sort of thing. So I mean, it really becomes an issue because when sellers see that kind of activity, like it can break down the deals.
Yeah, and that's why there's so many. Like, look at all the states that are banning wholesaling or making it extremely difficult.
Yeah,
I just heard they banned Virginia and Oregon.
Oregon, yeah.
And what another state I heard?
I think was it Iowa?
I'm not sure. I got to confirm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a couple that are just adopting legislature, and the thing is, it's like with that kind of regulation, like once it happens in a state, people, like not people, but like just municipalities have the model now, and all they do is they can take it and deploy. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's gonna change. It's gonna change.
Yeah. Jerry and I, we set up a trade organization to hopefully put some horsepower into like combating this, because I'm actually not against legislation. Normally, I'm very like laissez-faire, free market, like don't mess around. But on the other hand of things, barriers to entry in our industry benefit existing players. So like if you ever listen to like the smartest, richest guys like Warren Buffett, he says, you know what I invest in? I invest in businesses that have moats around them.
Moats, exactly.
Yeah.
And laws making it more difficult to wholesale build those walls for the existing players that are able to operate within the rules and frameworks. The only problem is like some of them are written so stupidly, stupidly that like it's just insanity. So I'm pro having like some rules, but the way that they're writing them, it looks like they're written by idiots.
I think, well, I mean, politics get in the way, right? And then you have people with no necessarily not a track record or background or extensive experience in creating policy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's one of the things that I've seen firsthand. I'm a real estate broker, so I mean, I go to the department on a regular basis just to kind of check out what's going on. Stay attuned because I have to advise my agents, right? And as default, you start to see some stuff. It's like, man, what the fuck were they thinking?
Well, Dominic. Dominic said, "Hey, Vic, this is what's going on." I'm like, "Oh, that's right. We could just double close." He's like, "No, you can't. They won't let you double close." I was like, we can't double close. That
you can double close.
I guess in some of these states they're not allowing double closing, which makes no sense to me.
They're trying to roll that out. Yeah,
that's nuts.
Really, they're kind of trying to get rid of double closing.
Yeah,
which makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Well, I mean, what's the working on? You buy it and hold it for 24 hours and then sell it. Like,
who knows? It's insane.
It sounds like a clause to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing. At the end of the day, all that's going to change is the paperwork. Yeah. Like the paperwork is. People are just gonna, the regulators are gonna come in there and they know nothing about our industry, so they're gonna put in a bunch of rules that don't make sense. Yeah. And then some guy, like I already talked to one guy at a mastermind a little while ago. He's like, "Dude, I have a contract that it's not technically an assignment, but it is an assignment, like same kind of thing, but like it's legal in every state." Yeah. And he was actually one of the guys that was on the team writing the legislation.
Oh wow.
Jeez. And now he flips sides. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, here's how to get around it."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's nuts. I got a question for you. So when you started Investor Lift, it was more for the high level players, right?
Yeah.
The big dogs. But now you got different, I guess,
tiers
for the newbies, the new guys. Like talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So originally I was like, okay, this thing is so valuable, I'm not going to open up to everyone, because I had looked at what had happened on other deal sites, like. I remember My House Deals, they came out and we used to be able to post deals on My House Deals and actually find some legit buyers. But then as it became more popular, it got bombarded with the noobs coming in, putting stuff that was, it's listed on the MLS for $250 and they list it on My House Deals at $300 and they don't even have it on contract. And like,
exactly.
And so all these deal sites, as soon as they opened up to the noobs and allowed people to post deals freely, they got bombarded. They turned into graveyards. Yeah. Because if it's just junk deals, then you lose all the buyers. And if you lose all the buyers, what's the point of posting?
Yeah. People stop paying attention too. I mean, it happens on the mailers. It happens on the websites. It happens everywhere, right? As soon as people may have some faith to a point, but if you see consistently that it's being, it's like it's trash going out. Like it's people just stop paying attention to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So originally, I the level of it came on, you had to show me HUDs, you're doing $250,000 a month, and have 3 other guys vouch for you that you're a legit player. And so that was like the first 50 that we had at that high level. And then we filled that up and it was sold out. And then a lot of people were like, the second Cartel Boss Summit, that's where we get our top users together for kind of like a mastermind together. They're like, hey, I got all these buddies that want to get on, but like, sold out. And I'm like, well, you want me to open up more seats? Or no, don't open up more seats. Like, keep it tight. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? You want me to get your buddy on? Or like, we're going to have to kick someone off if we want to get them on. Like, who do you want to kick off?
Call your shot.
And I was like, okay, I'll tell you what if we created a tier below that? That's not like full access, but like 25% access. And they're like, yeah, let's do that. And so we introduced Lieutenant, which is a level below. Cartel is full access. Lieutenant's 25% access. And then there's another level below that, Falcon, which gives you just 10,000 buyers. So that's like ideal if like you're in one market and you just want the best 10,000 buyers in your market. Boom, instant buyers list. Instant buyers list of the best 10,000 in your city or your county or wherever you are. And then there's Pro, and Pro doesn't come with like a buyers list that you can text and email instantly like those other ones. Like Vic can come on and he can hit anyone's buyers list. On Pro, you don't have that ability. You bring your own buyers list with you. So for guys that are like, hey, I have every buyer in my city already. I already got 22,000 buyers, and they just want
the platform
the platform, additional exposure, the tools that increase the speed of the workflows for the dispo managers. They can come on the Pro level, and that's like less than $500 a month, and very accessible. And usually a lot of guys are spending more than that just on their email. They're spending $600 a month on SendGrid or MailChimp, and we give unlimited free email in the system. So a lot of times people are, like, if you're watching this and you're using like Constant Contact and MailChimp and all that stuff, look at your total cost of all those tools. Because usually to run Dispo without InvestShift, you need 4, 5, 6 different tools. Plus you need to buy data. You're probably spending like $1,000 a month, and so you can actually just consolidate and have all of that in one place on InvestShift, just even on a Pro account.
Also look at deliverability and open rates. I mean, it's from my understanding, you guys go through the process of seeing what open rate, what type of email opens better, works better, the layouts, from. Yeah,
we spent over $250,000 building the email system. It's super smart. We do stuff that no one else does. Like, so for example, like one of the best ways to get into the primary inbox and get your stuff delivered is have a really high IP reputation. And we did a bunch of research experimenting with how to build up IP reputations. And the biggest mistake that people do is they're on a shared IP. So if you're on MailChimp, for example, you don't have a dedicated IP. You're on a shared IP where everyone else around random people around the country are sending from the same IP as you, sending out spam, and you're getting screwed over and you don't even know it.
Yeah, meaning that if I'm sending out shitty stuff and then you're sending out great stuff, but we're in the same IP, it looks the same on the other side.
Exactly. So you're suffering from the bad decisions of other random MailChimp users around the industry. So what we did was on the first day, we have a pool of IPs. On day 1, it sends out 1 email. Day 2, it sends out 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32, and just keeps on doubling until these IPs are able to send out millions of emails a day. And if the reputation of an IP drops, then we have this little trick. What we do is we put that IP into as a separate pool where it only sends emails to the most engaged buyers that we have that open and click on every email.
Gotcha. You recover
and then the email service providers see that super high engagement, and that IP, it goes from 100 down to 99. 24 hours later, it's back up to 100. So you always have, with this system that we built, we always have 100% IP reputations. They're not shared IPs with a bunch of random, spammers and shit from random companies around America. They're just the InvestShift users, and the way that the system is working, it's just running all this on autopilot. No business is going to be able to do that on their own. But as a result of this, our average open rate, like last month, we're north of 70% average open rate.
That's wild, man.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah. It's I think a lot of it, right? It becomes the ability to shift and adapt, because there's so many things that we don't see when we're trying to bootstrap a business and then just launching at the beginning. And I can speak for myself on this. All I wanted to do was just lock up a deal and push it. Yeah. Right. So we might be able to get away with that, might have been able to get away with that in the previous years. But now, like, we're really coming into a space where you have to get serious about what you're doing. You have to get serious about your process, about your team, about the way that you build culture and collaboration within your team, within the people in your markets, right? Like, it's I come from a background where that thing was unheard of, like collaborating with your quote unquote competition, and it's not like it. When I started doing that kind of stuff, it was mind boggling to me, like the amount of progress that I was able to make, and how much faster everything was, right? With that being said, like, I had to learn that way that okay, it's time to get serious about the way that I run the business, the stuff that I come in, that I invest in, what matters, what doesn't matter, and I mean, definitely, like, having processes in place. This was one of the toughest things. It really is. I think that's where the money is made. I used to be biased to acquisitions because I'm an acquisitions guy. So I stuff like my thing was negotiating deals, locking up stuff, and this was easy.
Right. If it's a deal, it'll sell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially in this market.
Yeah.
You really need to have a strong dispo.
Yeah.
Especially in this market.
Now it's key. It's the
for
key.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Off of InvestLift, our research is showing that the average assignment fee nationwide is around $14,000-15,000. On the average month on InvestLift, our average assignment fee is $28 to $32. So it's literally twice as much money per deal with less work. It's an absolute no-brainer. Yeah. It's now gotten to the point where, so just this week I did 3 Dispo lives. I did one at Batch's office. Friday we had 120 companies on that. That will be posted on Batch's channel soon. The first buyer I called on Artemis mode, it was a ship box in Baltimore, asking $109,000. And the first call I did, I got him up to 120. That's $11,000 more just on the first call. Like, that pays for a Falcon license for an entire year. And then we did one last night where I took one of my sales guys. I made a bet with Jacob Blank. Shout out to Jacob Blank. Check him out on YouTube. I said, I bet you I can take someone that's never wholesaled a deal, throw them on InvestLift, and they can sell any deal in under 90 minutes. So he's like, all right, I'll take that bet. We bet $2,000. And I took one of my sales guys. I'm like, you, come here. Sit down. You're going to sell a deal on InvestLift. And he'd never been on the phone with a buyer ever before. He was so nervous. Yeah. He was like literally like almost shaking. I kind of felt bad afterwards. But we sold the deal $700 above asking price in 52 minutes. Wow. And then today we did another one. We're now doing them every Wednesday with our community. Today we did another one where we sold a multifamily in under an hour. So every single time we're doing these Dispo lives, the deals are selling at or above asking price. So it's actually starting to work so well that it's actually blowing my mind. I'm like, it's actually going to the point where if you're trying to Dispo something not using InvestLift, I think it's insane. Where
can somebody go see to check out the Dispo lives?
So we're going to be posting them on, there's going to be a few, there's already a couple on our InvestLift YouTube channel. The one we did with Jacob Blank, that's going to be on Jacob Blank's YouTube channel. And then the one with Batch is going to be on Batch's YouTube channel. So check those out. And we're going to start running them every Wednesday. So you just come on, bring us a deal, and we just pick someone from the audience. When you register for the webinar, the next step, it'll say, hey, send us one of your deals. We take one of those deals and we'll Dispo them live. Actually, I asked Vic if we could.
Yeah, I sent you a few.
But then I was thinking, oh, it's going to be cooler though if we take one from the audience.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, that's fine. I do have a question. Before we move on, because I have a question in regards to the new real estate commission law. Yeah. I want to get your feedback on that. But before we go on to that, what do you feel? I want to get your insight. What are the traits you feel that someone needs to have to be successful in business? I'd like to get your thoughts on that because clearly you've done really well.
Okay. So I think the first thing is going to be the ability to have extreme focus. Right, like
that's what Steve Jobs says too.
That's what everyone says. You listen to Mark Zuckerberg, he answers that question the same. You ask Warren Buffett, he answers it the same. You ask Elon Musk, he'll answer it the exact same. There's actually a compilation video that I saw of people asking what is the most important key to success in business. Every single one of them answered it the exact same.
Extreme focus.
Extreme focus.
Extreme focus.
Find the 1% that you're the best in the world at. Go all in on that. Go 11 out of 10. In school, they teach us, you get 90% on a test. You get 10% of the answers wrong, 90% right. You're getting an A.
You're still acing it. Yeah.
Everyone's like, high five. You come home. Hey, mom, look, I got an A- on my test. We're conditioned in school to think that 90% is okay. So we go out, and a lot of us, when we start our first business, we go 90%. 90%, you're not going to make any money. You're going to be bankrupt in 2 to 3 years. Yeah. Then a lot of guys, they'll get a couple failures, and then they'll realize, okay, I got to step it up a notch. They learn from their mistakes. And the next time, then they go 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, maybe you're going to make a couple $100,000 a year. You'll probably last like 5, 6, 7 years, then it'll probably fizzle out.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at the companies that truly become great, the entrepreneurs that truly accomplish the greatest things in life, they find that extra gear. It's going from 10 to 11, truly trying to become the best in the world at one specific thing that sets them apart, right? Like Google organizes all the information in the world. Uber, press a button, get a car. Airbnb, press a button, rent a villa. Like all these things are like people just going obsessively after one small thing. An investor, I'm press a button, sell an investment deal.
Yeah.
So I think focus is number one. And then obviously you gotta, I think you need to be a little bit delusional, right?
Yeah.
Right. If like none of this is rational, your chances of success are pretty much zero.
My wife tells me and all my friends are kind of weird. We're all kind of crazy.
You have to be a little bit on the spectrum.
You guys are all kind of the same. You're all kind of weird. I'm like, no, I never realized that.
And that's why we love hanging out with each other. Because like normal people, when we hang out with normal people, it's like, we're
I'm
like
not weird. You're weird.
Yeah. It's funny too because I worked for my cousin for 20 years, and I always felt like everyone thought I was annoying. Like he's annoying. He's kind of irritating and hard to work with. But people like me. But I'm like, I guess I was kind of annoying and irritating. You know what I mean? So I think you got to be a little bit unreasonable.
Yeah, being reasonable and stay focused, and then you got to have good communication skills, and you got to be a good people reader too.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think staying naive is one of the things that I think for me has done it right. And I don't know. I think it translates to to a similar thing. But staying naive in terms of like, man, I don't know what I don't know, even though I feel like I'm kicking ass in this particular space. Yeah. At the end of the day, there's going to be somebody who's crushing it or has been doing it for twice as long as I have, and they're they have a wealth of knowledge, right, that I can borrow from. But I think it's important, right, to stay open-minded and naive to a degree in our capacity to do great things. Mm-hmm. Two, in the fact that we just don't know what we don't know. Yeah. You can have a conversation with somebody, that person can plant the seed in your head about an idea, and then when you're 15, and then 5 years later you're walking into Harvard and mounting this impressive company, right? So we just don't know how we're gonna get hit. Yeah. With the next best beautiful thing that we can take on.
So that means you always want to be learning, and I think with you, I think 1,000%. you're a habitual learner, right?
Yeah, always.
And Charlie Munger says that, right? You have to be a habitual learner. So I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, and like if you want to build big wealth real quickly, try to be more incompetent. Try to embrace your incompetency. Yeah. Yeah, try to always find people that are smarter than you.
Feel awkward, man. Yeah. And you said it. I think you said it best. Intellectual curiosity. Earlier, when you said it earlier, it resonates, right? It's like, man, what if we pull here and push here? Yeah. What would happen there?
It's funny what you said. What if? There's a very cool video. Kobe Bryant. He talks about he was looking. He would see Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, and he would ask himself, what if I could be that good? Like, what if I can do that? What if? And he's like, let's find out.
What if it works?
Yeah. And then he said, let's find out. And I'm like, that's so cool because that's kind of the attitude you have to have. Like, well, what if I could do that? And then, well, let's find out, Yeah.
The idea of just being okay with or embracing the awkwardness or embracing the fact that we don't know it all. Dude, when I started going to masterminds and just having seats and listening to people talk, it's like, man, I felt so inadequate. And I talk about that stuff all the time. I mean, I felt like, rock solid, right, in my own little bubble. And as soon as I walked out of that bubble into a room full of performers and perspective, really, more importantly. All that, kind of self-confidence just vanished. Yeah. And then I'm sitting a lot of times and like, man, I feel like I shouldn't even be in this room. Like, what am I doing?
Well, what's interesting, I was invited to a mastermind, and I won't say the name because he invited me, and I was disappointed because when I went, I wasn't the dumbest guy in the room.
You knew
by far. Like, actually, I knew more than a lot of people there, and I'm like, man, this is a disappointment.
Mm-hmm. My initial reaction to being, feeling like the dumbest guy in the room was like, I want to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
It's like, now I love it.
Now if
you want to seek that.
Right. Even when I go, and I'm speaking at an event or something like that, I'll do my thing and I'll, talk about the stuff that I know, and then I go and sit and I listen to everybody else, like, and even the audience. Like, there's so many golden nuggets that come from, from a space of just, kind of saying, intentionally naive, right? In the fact that we just, we don't know it all.
Yeah, and I told the story to you, but I don't think I told you, Robert. My cousin, had 2,000 employees. We were having steak once, and I don't know if I told you. I asked him, like, how did you do it? Like, how did you get to have 2,000 plus employees and have this global company, right? He's like, number one, I was humble. I was like, what? He's like, I knew I didn't know everything, so I seeked out people in my industry that maybe they didn't know more, but they had some success. And I took all those ideas and I made it my own. I was like, wow. And I think that's true. I mean, you got to always learn.
Yeah. 100%. And the other thing, too, is like if you have a strongly held belief and you encounter someone that has an opposing belief, don't discard that. What you should do is go to that person and be like, okay, I see you have this belief. I have an opposing belief. Why do you believe what you believe? Because humans, we're not rational animals. We're not truth-seeking animals. We're emotionally driven animals, and the most dangerous thing is to have bad operating systems and bad mental models for the way that you look at the world that are not actually based on real evidence. So anytime I find someone that has a different opinion than me on something, I'm like, why do you think that?
Yeah,
I want to know why you think that. Like I'm super into like high velocity, wholesale, stay focused, cash, turn and burn. And I know a lot of other guys that are like into completely different strategies. Like Pace and we click really well.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to wholesale anything. He's like, I just want to buy stuff. I want to buy $100 million of real estate every year. I'm like, okay, that works for you. But why do you think that? Why do you think that? Why do you think that's like, what's your approach? What are the pros and cons to your approach versus my approach? And then you get a better understanding, and you can just achieve way more. Yeah. Way more if you're just always looking at what is the other perspective.
Well, the reality is if you implement a little bit of each idea, exponential growth.
Well, you're gonna synthesize your own idea out of what you're seeing. Like, I do the same thing with opposites and books. I'll read for example, I'll read a book on essentialism. And then I'll read a different book on a totally different, opposite idea on how to, organize stuff through the T, and it's got so many, processes, systems, and it's loaded and it's, it's bulky. And what happens inevitably is because you're synthesizing both ideas on both sides of the spectrum, right? On any given topic, you end up with, something along the way that you agree with the most, and it forces you to have that critical thinking applied to it. And it's the exact same thing that happens when you go to masterminds, when you sit down and you have conversations, when you collaborate with other people who are in the same business but are doing it in just a different fashion than we are. You end up with perspective. You end up with ideas because we're staying open to the learning process.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's my ego used to get in the way a lot.
Yeah.
Like, nah, I'm not gonna ask because I'm gonna sound stupid. No. Like, who gives a shit?
The dumb questions are the best ones.
Yeah, you end up making more money when you sound stupid, I think.
I'm always asking stupid questions. Like, a lot of times I have my own answer. I know the answer, but I'll ask someone, well, what are your thoughts on this? And they're like, dude, like this and this. What are you, stupid? Yeah. I'm like, no, I just want to get your opinion.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what they're thinking.
Brilliant.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Exactly. So I do that a lot. And there's been a couple times where guys are like, seriously? I'm like, dude, I want your opinion, because it gives you insight. And then I like to see how people think. Yeah. Because then you're like, oh, that's his thought process. That's interesting.
One of my favorite questions to ask on sales calls is you drop something that, is powerful or whatever, you show it to, like, on Investor, we have a couple of features, like Artemis Mode is my favorite. I'll show it to someone, and it's just like, they're like, whoa, that's powerful. And I'll just pause. I won't say anything. I'll be like, what are you thinking about? Just pause for a little bit and just be like, what are you thinking about? What are you thinking about is one of the most powerful questions. Because people just tell you exactly what they're thinking about.
Yeah.
Exactly what's going through their mind.
That's smart. That's a good question.
Yeah.
We should use that in acquisitions too. What are you thinking about my offer?
Yeah, try that.
Mine is, it's always what are your thoughts? It's kind of along the same line.
Same thing.
Yeah, so I'll say something real quick and then I'll drop, what are your thoughts? And then just either to look for a lifeline to continue the conversation or really, like, if they're ready, they're going to just start opening up. But it's a very powerful question, man.
Totally.
It's a very powerful question.
So now moving on to this new law that just came about, right?
Yeah.
About real estate commissions. What are your thoughts on that? How do you think that's going to affect the wholesaling industry?
Yeah, Robert, what are you thinking about?
What am I thinking about?
You see what I did there?
Well, I'll tell you what my initial reaction is like the NER, they're obviously the ones behind trying to, like, push through all this legislation around wholesaling. I think they're like one of the top 3 lobbyist groups in the country. We double check on that. Guys, if you're watching this, someone fact check that. How big of a lobbyist? I think they're like top 3, right?
I didn't know they're that big.
They're huge. They're freaking huge. And then, so they had nothing to do. They're making tons of money, low interest rates. So they just wanted a target. And so they were going after wholesalers really aggressively. But now that they got hit with this big lawsuit, guess what? They're going to be tied up. They're so busy. They're going to leave us alone. So I like that it's a distraction.
Yeah.
Gets the National Association of Realtors off of investors' backs for a little bit. Because I think the fact that they won this lawsuit is going to open up a lot more lawsuits against them.
But I think also a lot of agents are going to try to do wholesaling.
I wouldn't be surprised. Because now they're making less money.
Yeah.
It's less money in their pocket. So I like it.
I think a lot of agents might go for the test of wholesaling, but then again, man, we
it's hard
in the coaching space. We see it all the time. You give somebody the tools. You give here's the blueprint, and people get all hyped up and excited, and when they come across 2-3 challenges, like they pivot and move on to something else. They go back to a 9 to 5. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like it's easy to get enamored with the idea of being an entrepreneur. And getting into but they don't see the years of struggle. They don't see the 12, 14, 16 hour days, and studying and like, for example, the effort that you had to go through, not just to make it into Harvard, but also to develop something that you had to kind of figure out along the way that's completely different vertical than what you went to school for, right? So like that, reading between the lines, it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and time, right? And I feel like people don't give it the time for things to work, and that seems to. I wish it was the exception, not the norm, but it seems to be the norm. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe 100 agents go in and then try wholesaling. In my opinion, I think 2 or 3 are going to stick. Yeah. So we may see a bit of an uptick, but at the end of the day, human nature takes over, and people like to be comfortable, man.
What I do think is going to happen is it now forces the agents to have to actually sell their value prop on being like, why do I deserve 3% as a buyer's agent? Because being a buyer's agent is not that hard. Yeah. Right? Like, most people when they're shopping for houses, they're just going on Zillow. Yeah. Right? They're going on Zillow and they find one that they like, and they think that when they're calling that number, they're calling the person that's selling the house. They're not. They're a buyer lead gen.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're going to end up paying 3% and don't even know it. Yeah. A lot of times they don't even know it, And so I think that's really good. That's very healthy. It's going to allow the best agents, because there are some great agents out there.
I work with a lot of agents, actually.
You're a broker, right? There are a lot of good ones where the 3% makes sense because they have track record and they have data to show that, hey, I'm worth my 3%. Yeah. Look at the average sales in there, the average dollar per square foot. Look at what I sell for. Average dollar per square foot is this. I sell at 10% above that. So you want to give me 3% to make you another 10%? That sounds like a fair deal. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And as a matter of fact, like I said, I work with a lot of agents, and I talked to a few, like, hey, are you worried? They're like, no, because I work with investors. So I think what's going to happen, if they don't try to wholesale, they're going to reach out to a lot of investors to work together. That's my thoughts. So I think it might be a little bit challenging at first, but eventually I think it's going to be good for the business, for our business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier too. I mean, building up some of those barriers is not. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. Especially, I mean, I've been at it since 2009.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I started doing, fix and flips, and I started wholesaling in 2012. So I've seen a lot of the like the upticks, the fall off, and I mean, it's the barrier to entry. It's always been, very low to none.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think creating some of that, and actually Jerry was talking about, the association that, of wholesalers and kind of creating some internal regulation, like self-regulation is not I don't think it's a bad thing, man. Like, I think the stigma against the industry grew because it was just like the Wild West.
Yeah.
And when you have, now I think we're learning as a generation, we're learning, what good business looks like. Mm-hmm. So it used to be like, man, they screwed the seller out of, $30,000, and people would applaud that.
Yeah.
Now, if you say that in a team, in a table full of your peers, it's like, man, I mean, was that abuse?
Yeah.
Were you taking advantage of an old lady? Like, it's frowned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's frowned upon. Like you said,
it's just not fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like, the industry itself is evolving that way, right? So some of the stuff that's happening out there, I mean, I think it was going to happen, at some point. It's just inevitable. A policy kicks in if something is big enough. It always does, right? But I mean, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I really do see it as a separator between the people who have their shit dialed in, who are serious about their business, who want to do things right and operate as, good, reputable businesses out there, versus the other ones that they're just, in and out, and then, screwing people around and all that stuff. So
I got a question for you guys, because I'm retired now from the deals. What do you, but I do see a lot of data. Rafael, let's start with you. What are you seeing in your business? Are you seeing an increase, decrease in leads, or are you seeing about the same?
We are actually seeing an increase in deal flow. Okay. We did make a big pivot, though, over the last 6 months or so. I mean, it started really about 10 months ago, but leaned into it heavier.
What was that pivot?
So we were doing a lot of cold calling. I mean, I was holding pretty steady on deal flow, on cold calling and SMS. It was going well, and then we just hit a wall.
Yeah.
The red flagged words and all that stuff got just ridiculous to a point where deliverability was just getting lower and lower and lower. Right. So for a long time, that was my backbone marketing. And out of all things, we pivoted into, actually, boots on the ground and kind of guerrilla marketing again. So we went door knocking.
Wow.
Now we have teams that are deployed throughout the country. And I mean, we're seeing really, really good response just in the way that we acquire the data, the way that we deploy it. We're building software again and just fine tuning, the entire offering per se, right? But it internally, I mean, we're rocking deals. I mean, we're rocking deals, I think, almost every day. I mean, a week will get, and it's not a big operation, meaning that I don't have 60 people or 30 people in the operation. But we're bringing in, right on average, maybe 3 to 4 deals a week.
Wow.
So we stay consistent.
It's actually really good.
Yeah,
above
the 20 deal mark a month, and of course, we have acquisitions versus closing, right? On the closing, hence the comment earlier about Dispo is where it's at. Yeah. It's where we had a lot of. I never had issues locking up deals. But, we came into volume, especially in the virtual markets, and okay, you're like, shit, man. Like, it's just it's a little different to sell it when you don't have your bread and butter buyers list, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing. It's working really well for us. It's one thing, of course, we rolled out PPC.
How are you liking that? Because, I mean, you were very heavy on outbound. Now you're switching to inbound. I'm a really big fan of inbound. I always tell people, like, the game really changes once you do inbound. It's like a whole different thing.
It's where it's at, man. And, talking to Nick, I've known him for a long time. And a lot of the guys that have been doing inbound forever, to me, it wasn't necessarily a need because we were crushing on the cold calling. So it didn't become a matter of the conversation itself. Mm-hmm. It became a matter of regulation and policy.
Yeah.
So I mean, the systems just don't work the same as they used to 2 years ago.
Yeah. But it's good because it's now if the rules and regulations weren't changed, you probably would stick in your comfort zone. Like, okay, I'm texting, it's cheap cost per deal. and not had that breakthrough that okay, inbound is like that's where it's at, you know, like that's the Glengarry Glen Ross leads.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, I mean, I try to do I mean, right now I have several campaigns going and different verticals, right, for lead generation inbound and outbound. So we're still doing, and we're doing a lot of door knocking. We get, you know, and usually, interestingly, the amount spread is a lot bigger on door knocking. So we get, right now the stat is that we're getting from every 7 leads that come in via one of our setters, door knockers, right, 1 goes under contract.
That's incredible.
That's nuts. Because the average is PPC is 1 out of 22. Cold calling is 1 out of 35. So that's nuts.
Yeah. So and I'm averaging out the stuff that we've seen over the last 6 months.
That's
okay,
really
I'm really curious about something because when I was wholesaling, I tried door knocking. I was like, okay, is this a real thing, right? I was doing some consulting for Tarek Al-Musa from Flipper Flop at the time. And my buddy David Lecco, he wanted Tarek to do like an endorsement deal with Deal Machine, which if you guys haven't checked out Deal Machine, check it out. It's really good for building your door knocking list. So he asked me what I thought. And I'm like, to be honest, I've never tried door knocking before or driving for dollars. Let me run a test in my business and see if this thing like checks out. Right. So what I did is I'm like, okay, let me go and use all my data and knowledge to try to do this like 11 out of 10 in a way that no one else would do. So I stacked like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different pain points that I thought were going to be predictive of distress, like behind on taxes, out-of-state owner, code violations, water, like all of this stuff to create this God tier list. And then what I did then is I put that into a route planner that planned me a route, and then I drove it for a week straight. And my process was I would get out, knock on the door. If they did answer whatever, then I'd talk to them and are you interested in selling a house, blah, blah, blah. If they didn't answer the door, I would leave a handwritten note with my phone number and stuff that into the door. So I'm like, let me go 11 out of 10, like above and beyond this. And I did it for a week, and I got like 2 leads that were like somewhat decent. None of them turned into a deal. So I was never able to make it work. I'm like, I would way rather cold call 100,000 people than spend all day driving around. It seems like you figured it out. What's the secret? How are you doing it? How are you actually make? Because those are incredible numbers. 1 in 7 is like.
So we're going. I mean, and this sounds like the cliche thing that you've heard over the last years, right? But we are door knocking pre-foreclosure properties. So we are going after it's evident distress, right? And we're seeing like you're probably seeing the data as well. Like those numbers, the pre-foreclosure numbers are popping up. I think one of the biggest things is speed to lead, how fast we're actually getting the information, which we have a process that allows us to get the info really, really quick. So we show up.
I think that's a big factor right there.
So it's pretty interesting, man. When you have the ability to show up at somebody's door and either be the bearer of the news and have some proof behind it, that's solid, right?
Because so some of these people don't even know that they're facing foreclosure. You knock on the door like, hey, I noticed you're facing foreclosure.
Well, here's the thing: if you were the 5th guy knocking on the door, you're done.
Yeah.
So I think getting that data early and hitting it right away, I really think that's the key.
So that's one thing that we've been able to kind of and I don't want to say figure out yet because it's still very very much on the beta and exploratory phase, right? But we're figuring out different counties, different markets, and we're able to get tap into that set of information. So we're showing up and we're like now we have the problem, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the thing. They can't say no because we have the proof right in front. And then we turn it into civilized conversation. So we have this very particular conversation kind of set of questions and cues that we go through. It's very non-abrasive. It's not we're not scaring the shit out of these people and we're at the door. It's a very consultative approach where let's put some options right in front of you.
Yeah, like how does that work? Like, do you guys have a script of like, can you walk me through like so, you knock on the door, I answer the door, I'm facing foreclosure. How would you?
They start, we scream. No. So we go up to the door, right, and then it's the opening it's pretty typical. It's nothing crazy. Listen, we had some stuff that came across our desk from your lender, and once we say lender, people know that they're behind on payments, and so it starts kind of dropping a red flag. Like we don't go, hey, listen, you're in foreclosure. We need to talk.
Yeah. I like that phrasing.
It's you know what I mean.
Stuff that came across our desk from your lender.
Yeah, from your lender, and we want to have a conversation with you. Now the thing is, we're not closing at the door.
Mm-hmm.
We're basically like the people that our team. What they're doing is they're teeing stuff up for the closers.
Yeah.
So all they're doing is closing the next appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that makes a big difference because again, people are freaking out a lot of the times.
Yeah.
This is like a cold bucket of water just landing on them,
mm-hmm.
right? So they don't necessarily have the a grip on their emotions at that time because shit just got real.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though like a lot of these people knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It just got real.
Yeah.
Right. So now you have that conversation. Anyway, we tee it up, and then it's a lot easier to train on the front end because it's a high turnover, role as well, like door knocking, like
it's
cold
not easy
calling.
because you're getting yelled at a lot.
People get yelled at, people get, whatever. So we have people that come in and then come out. So a handful of people, stay, right? A small percentage of people stay, and then it's like, that's their jam. They care, right? So that comes across the door, and it's problem solving. We talk about it all the time. Like we have to show up as problem solvers,
mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter like how cliche it sounds. Like it's the truth. Like it's really what needs to happen anyway. So we get that. We go through that very non-abrasive conversation. Every question is an opportunity for them to tee it up for a manager. You know what? I have maybe a brief answer, a light answer, but it's very superficial. Like to get really into the bread and potatoes of the conversation, like we need to have you sit down with my manager for a minute. Let's schedule a conversation. So they tee it up for acquisitions, and then acquisitions takes it from there. They go into a whole discovery.
Over the phone
call.
or in person?
Yeah, I was going to ask
Over
the
the
same
phone.
question. Over the phone.
So then they just call them.
Over the phone.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And are those over the phone closers? Are they located in those markets, or
No.
are they're here?
No,
in
they're
Phoenix,
here.
virtually closing.
Yeah, here and Yuma, actually, my hometown. One of my boys, shout out to Dan. He's crushing it. So him and I, we used to work at the fire department together years ago. So we go way back. But yeah, he's closing from, for example, he's closing from Yuma. I have another closer in Florida. So they're all virtual, right? They're not in the markets.
Yeah.
But the
But you
solutions...
still have someone physically showing up at the door, which I love that because it's kind
impressive.
of like
That's
it's kind of like
cool.
this hybrid, like virtual.
Yeah, it's a hybrid
in-person.
door knocking virtual.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And it also helps out a lot too on the once we get the property under contract, and a lot of these deals, right? Like they're gonna have issues when you have a PPC lead. It's like buy the property, and I mean a good percent of the time is like it's a clean offer. It's it's whatever. They're super motivated. They went out to you, and they're easier to transact, right? On some of the stuff that we come across, I mean we have probate situations. We have extensions on the pre-foreclosure. We have you name it, right? They're like they come with bugs per se. So they're somewhat of a more difficult breed of deal. To call it something. Sure. But they're doable, and the spreads are there, and the people need help. Yeah. Right. So, but yeah, we do that. We tee it up for the closers. The closers do their thing, and then we push it over to Dispo. So now, sometimes for seller walkthroughs, communication, and you name it. Right. It's even though everybody's they're operating in their lanes. They support each other after they hand off that section of the deal.
Because they both had commission. Like, how do you pay the door knockers? That was one of the things. Flat fee. Flat fee per lead?
Per deal closed.
Per deal closed. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay. So that really incentivizes them to work well with their closers because they both have the same skin in the game.
Yeah, and I thought about the for example the percentage and all that stuff, but it kind of felt a little unfair because they don't have a lot of control over what the spread is going to be, right? Once we get into acquisitions gets incentivized to work the deal, to see different angles, to structure it in a different manner, to stay on the follow-up, right? Because of that spread or that revenue.
So how much are they making per deal?
Drivers?
Yeah, the
or
drivers.
setters? 3K per deal.
3K per deal. Yeah. That's not bad. I mean, you can imagine like an Uber driver.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's funny because a lot of times, it's been many times where like I get picked up from, a crazy party or whatever at and
I didn't
my
know
Uber
you
drivers
liked to party.
then,
Did you get the invite? I didn't get the invite.
when the Uber driver picks you up and there's like 17 Lamborghinis sitting out in front, they're like, "Oh man, it looks like a sick party." Like, "Hey, do you mind me asking, sir, what do you do?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, I run a real estate software company, and that specializes in servicing real estate wholesalers." They're like, and then they're always curious. They're like, "Oh, how do I learn about that?" I'm like, "Dude, just go on YouTube. Here's some channels." And sometimes if guys are like really driven, I'll give them my phone number.
Yeah.
And I'll even jump on a call with them and, give them like 15, 20 minutes of like, if you want to actually do this and become a real estate wholesaler, here's some resources to go learn how to do that.
Yeah, future client, right?
Yeah. And I always tell the guys too, like I remember telling an Uber driver, I'm like, if I were you, I'm like, I've never been able to make door knocking work, but you're driving around all day, go download the Deal Machine app. And is you're driving past properties that look like they're worn down, just load them into your phone because you're driving around all day long. Like you're going to find a deal. And once you get your first deal, now you got money to run marketing. That's going to change your life. So I did this back in LA like a few years back, and a guy called me back like 2 years later. He's like, "Rob, I just want to thank you."
Wow.
I just broke $1 million.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Nice.
I was like, damn, like this guy had hustle.
Yeah, totally.
Like he had talked to me once before. I think he messaged me when he got his first deal, and I didn't hear from him for a while. He showed up on some podcasts and stuff, like as a viewer. And then like he like 2 years later, he had made his first $1 million. I was like, dude, that was so cool.
Wow.
That reminds me of my Goldman Sachs conversation.
Yeah.
I had. I was like, that guy.
That's what I was saying earlier, right? You never know what conversation is going to plant the seed that's going to totally give you a 180 or change your life in a very positive way.
Yeah.
So
is that how you recruit? Do you go try to recruit Uber drivers and stuff, or how do you find these?
No, we go word of mouth for referral, type of stuff. Who do you know that might be a good good person, whatnot. When I hire fast, but I also fire faster. Mm-hmm. So it's I like to present the opportunity to people. I'm never the type of guy that's spoon feeding or doing that kind of stuff, right? I work a lot on the back end to have good systems, processes, training, just onboarding. It's very dialed in. I'm very ops driven. Yeah. So I put that on a platform for people to come in, and then some people take it and run, and some others are like, so. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we do that, and then the ones who stick, I mean, they crush it. So yeah, it's interesting. We're opening up more markets now. We're JVing with because of the volume. Like we don't want to do all these deals. Yeah. Like take on the headache of actually processing everything. So now we're opening in select markets where we have stuff figured out with the software kicks in well and all that stuff. We have JV partnerships that we're setting up. So
where you're dispoing for other people, or
other
people are dispoing for you?
We'll JV on the dispo if they need to. Otherwise, we'll set up the training. We'll set up the platform, the software. We'll pull the data, give them everything for them to go out and then have their team of setters, right? And then we stay on the deal, for a fraction of the percentage. So
nice.
So that's one of the things that we're deploying. So if anybody's interested, hit me up. But yeah, we're looking at a couple of different markets.
That's sick. I love your hybrid model.
So yeah, I mean, and it's I think the MO is very similar, right? You start to see different operations, and it's like, how can I piece this thing together here? I was like, and then there's some stuff that I wouldn't be interested in tackling if it was just me operating behind the curtain. So. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, as far as pivots, that's one of the big ones. Of course, setting up PPC and the other campaigns working out well. Exposure has gone a long way when it comes to deal and edification as well. Yeah. So, in collaboration, I mean, it's big. So,
I love that. Yeah. Vic, are you seeing more leads too?
Yeah. So we're getting more leads. Are getting easier to convert. Yeah. But I'm also seeing. It's easier to get, so PPC is actually really good, but it needs to be really dialed in. Yeah. So we've really struggled with it in the last year. It used to do really well for us, and then for the last year, really struggled. But Sean Terry's helped us. Nick Perry has been a huge benefit as well. So it's picking up, and so we're seeing the PPC leads they're easier to close. Yeah. Versus cold calling. Cold calling, sometimes it can be a mess, but that's because we're hitting very motivated data. So I think PPC, so we still close more deals from cold calling, but PPC is now beginning to catch up, and I think it's going to surpass it.
Yeah.
So we really want to push to. We prefer inbound because inbound, I think, if you're closing 1 out of 20 versus 1 out of 35, it's just a lot easier.
Way easier.
Also, I think PPC, you're able to close it faster. Like you get the contract faster because you can get the contract within. Some people say 5-7 days, but let's say it's within 10 to 12 days. Versus cold calling, it could be 45, 60.
Yeah, you're turning your cash conversion cycle is way faster.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we really want to focus on.
I track that.
Yeah, we really want to focus on really fine tuning our PPC, which we're close to doing that now, and then we're going to turn up the faucet.
Crank it up.
Yeah.
I love that. On investor lift, the reason why I was asking this is like nationwide, we saw a huge surge in the last 90 days. Deal volume is up. It's more than double.
Yeah.
Right now than it was in December, or 50% increase.
Question for you. That's super interesting because that means the market's picking up, right?
Yeah, 6,200 properties last month.
That's
crazy, new record.
Do you track a property avatar? Like what type of properties are selling? Like is it a 3.2, a 3.1? Do you guys track that? Do you have those metrics? Because I like looking at that, and I've been noticing in the last 3 months or so, like the properties that are selling the best are 3.2. 1960, 1970 plus, and that's like a hedge fund buy box, right? Mm-hmm. But the hedge funds aren't really coming in strong yet. I think so. These are my thoughts, and then I'll let you jump in. My thoughts are, a lot of guys are starting to buy that hedge fund buy box because they know the hedge funds are around the corner again. What are your thoughts? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I haven't. On investor lift yet seen the hedge funds like surging in offer volume yet. Yeah. Like they're starting to come back. But what's really interesting, Inman posted an article yesterday where they did an interview with the CEO of BlackRock. And guys, if you don't know BlackRock, they're the biggest fund in the world. They have over $1 trillion of assets under management. Yeah. Last year, they raised, I think, $150 billion to acquire more real estate. They've been sitting on that dry powder for a while, wanting to put it to work. And they just bought Tricon, which is the biggest house buyer in North America. Absolutely, is a Canadian company, actually. Huge deal. That deal just went down like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So, number one, they just bought Tricon. Okay, so that shows they're very bullish.
Yeah.
And then the CEO yesterday went out and said, hey, guys, right now is the best time to buy because the interest rates are about to drop. And if you wait till the interest rates drop, it's too late. Yeah. So right now is the perfect time to buy. And if he's going out and saying that probably means they already started buying.
Yeah.
Now they are those guys do lean more multifamily and commercial, but they do have a big chunk of those funds earmarked for single family. So I think we're starting to see a little bit more fund activity. We're going to see a lot. I think it's really going to start kicking Q3, Q4. That's my prediction. Q3, Q4, it's going to be lit.
Yeah, I think so. And to me, it's just like, man, it's the 3.2s and the newer, 1970 plus that are moving. I'm like, that's hedge fund. I think somebody knows something. So a lot of investors are buying those, I think, for a reason.
And they'll package them up and they'll just sell the whole thing to a fund.
That's what my thoughts are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may be wrong, but that's my thoughts.
It also becomes trendy, right? Like one of the lists that I've hit forever is the property avatar list. Yeah. So I'll go into any market and I'll pull out like what's the property that's selling the most. Usually I use list source just for data and research, and I'll go in there and then it'll give me price point between $250 and $450, right? And then 3-bed, 2-bath between 1,200 and 2,200 square feet or whatever, right? So now you have a property avatar list. Because that's where the buyers are, and you begin with a model like that. But I also think that people see that the wholesalers, investors, like just people in the industry is like, oh shit, man, like this type of property is the one that's moving. Yeah. So it's what came first, the chicken or the egg?
And I like to stack like a property avatar with motivation. Yeah. Because then that's a game changer.
Yeah. You stack it with something. Motivation.
Yeah.
So.
One of the cool things that we added to InvestorLift a few months ago is when the leads come in, if you feed your leads into InvestorLift, you'll see on the lead how many buyers we have that meet that buy box.
I saw that. That's very cool. I saw that. That's very cool. That's very cool.
That's a fun thing, guys. If you're on Investor Lift, you haven't seen that, check it out.
Yeah.
Just zap your leads in.
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, how can guys learn about Investor Lift? Like, what's the best way to get in touch with you or with the company?
Absolutely. So go to get.investorlift.com, and I'll tell you what, Rafael, we'll set you up with a discount code that we'll post below this. So anyone watching this will give you 10% off your first year on the entry-level plan if you want to jump on.
Boom.
There it is.
That's the best deal we offer. And I'll tell you what, just since I'm in Scottsdale and you're local, we'll throw in another one. We haven't done this for like 2 years.
I'm getting excited.
But if you sign up within the next, when's this going live?
We're going to push it next week.
Next week? Okay, we'll keep it up for 48 hours after it goes live. If you sign up in the first 48 hours after it goes live, we will drop 1,000 of our very top buyers into your account in whatever city you're in. So just come on, mention that you watched this show. If it's in the first 48 hours, we're going to give you our 1,000 top buyers in your market.
And that's huge because your top 1,000 buyers, I made millions of dollars on just like one big buyer that I developed a relationship with. So that's
that's hundreds of thousands of dollars of value if you know how to use it right.
And, it takes so much effort, man, to build a good solid buyers list, let alone to get 1,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that'll take you 3 years to build it.
Like guys that are in the business, you know how powerful that is.
Yeah. So don't slack and jump on today. And just jump on, if you're not sure, right? Like just jump on a demo. And if you're not a good fit for us, we're going to let you know on that call. Hey, you're not, this doesn't make sense. We only want to take money from people that we are 100% confident that they're going to get a return on investment by using our product. Otherwise, we're just going to let you know, hey, this is not a good fit. But we're also going to give you a bunch of advice. Yeah. Right?
So
for free.
Win-win-win.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. It's incredible what you've been able to put together over the last several years. Your trajectory, the way you got started. I mean, I knew about you. I didn't know the ins and outs of the details. We've had a few brief conversations here and there, but it's nothing short of impressive, right? So big kudos. I'm excited to see what you're going to be coming up with in the future. And where this whole journey is headed. You're obviously getting big offers on the stuff that you built now, but when your vision is that big, it's like, why not push it a little long?
Yeah,
a little
100%.
a little longer. So
11 out of 10, right?
11 out of 10. Go hard or go home,
bro. I'm gonna get that tattooed on my.
You know what the funny thing is? A bunch of my team has it tattooed.
That's cool.
Already. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get where my watch face is. So when I put my watch on in the morning, I see it as
11 out of 10.
You should get some shirts say Investor Lift number 11.
Yeah. I love that.
I love it. Bro, this is my one of my favorite questions, and I like to wrap up kind of podcasts with that. But if you were walking down the street, and Vic, I don't know if you have another question, but if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what advice would you give that kid?
Don't put your Bitcoin on empty Gox exchange. I lost it all. Wow. No, actually, I would.
That is a really good one, actually.
Yeah, because I lost it all. Like I was buying it like $100 and like lost it all in the MT Gox hack. And I got the emails to prove it. People were like, "Oh yeah, I was in Bitcoin back then." Like, no, you weren't. I'm like, I got the emails to prove it. Here's my account registration on MT Gox in 2000, whatever. No, I think when you're young, you always have this high level of uncertainty of, is it going to actually work out?
Yeah.
Right? And I think if you let go of that, it actually unleashes you to perform at a level that is beyond what you understand you can do. Okay? Like, when you're operating from a position of fear, you don't make as ballsy moves.
Yeah.
And you don't take on as much risk. And then, so I'd probably tell my 17-year-old self, be like, don't worry, it all works out.
So
it all works out.
So would you say that is increase your self-belief? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like, believe more in yourself?
Because I would know that, okay, it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
Right? Like, starting a company is the craziest, most insane thing you ever do.
Yeah.
And I remember when I started my business, there was a guy that had a business for 15, 20 years. And he said to me, Robert, I'm going to tell you this. first of all, congratulations on your decision to start your own company. This is going to be the hardest, most difficult goddamn thing you're ever going to do. However difficult you think it is right now, it's going to be 100 times more difficult. And me being naive, 20-something-year-old, I'm like, maybe for you, like, you're not as smart as me. Like, just give me a kick. I got this shit on lock. Right? Again, you got to have that delusion a little bit. But then you hit the wall a few times. And there's a few times where you're like, shit, is this going to work out? And you almost give up. But you guys just find it within yourself to just keep on pushing because the whole world changes in 6 months. And if you can just be like a cockroach and just survive another 6 months when things are tough, guess what? 6 months later, things are usually twice as good.
Yeah.
And you know what? The other thing, this is a real key thing, guys. This is a mental hack. Whenever something really bad happens in your business, in your life, whatever, play this mental exercise. Figure out how can you turn this really bad thing into a really good thing. It doesn't matter what it is. I play this game all the time. Whenever I get hit with like really bad news or something does not go as planned, I just start thinking it through. How can I turn this to my advantage? And every single time I'm able to do it.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good tip. Like, turn negative to a positive, right?
Yeah.
Active awareness on that. That's huge, man. That's huge. Dude, it's been an incredibly great conversation. You're so easy to talk to.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're
a
friends.
wealth of knowledge. You're way too smart. How old are you?
33.
Yeah, you're way too smart for your age, bro.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Love it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Guys,
But
it's been a lot of
we
fun.
appreciate your time, man. We love having you.
I want to have you guys. So I just kicked off the first episode of my 11 out of 10 podcast. It's not live yet, but probably when you're watching this, maybe the first episode is live. I would love to have you guys on as well.
Oh, we'd love that.
I'm there.
Because we started. You could tell towards the end I was supposed to be the guest here, but I can't resist. I'm like, wait a minute, you got door knocking to work? How the hell did you do that? Like, I want to dive deeper on that.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm game.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Beautiful.
Awesome. Fam, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we did. Great conversation. Don't miss out on the opportunity. I mean, take advantage of this. It's time to get serious about the stuff that we're doing, right? As entrepreneurs, as wholesalers, I mean, there's a lot of shit that's changing in the industry. There's things that are going up and down and, sideways and whatnot. We have the ability, if we get intentional about the stuff that we do, we have the ability to become responsible about our results, right, at the end of the day. And how do we do it? It's like that. It's getting serious about things. It's getting, more knowledge. It's about deploying stuff. It's about taking advantage of the stuff that's already out there and collaborating, right? So keep that in mind, guys. I wish you all the best of success. And with that being said, I'm going to say it's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Stay focused. You got this. Boom.
See you on the next one.
See you guys.